Good evening and welcome to tonight's board meeting. I'm assuming everybody in the back can hear us. We've added some sound, so that's helpful. I would like to ask Director Minor if she would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. It's in the back.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Just a reminder to directors to please leave your microphones off unless you're getting ready to talk, and which means also no sidebars with one another. So you can't slam me tonight without me hearing it. So be careful. Just a reminder that the meeting is live on Zoom. Also, all of our meetings are recorded. And tomorrow sometime the meetings will be archived on our website. So that's tomorrow. Also, I'd also like to ask if there's anybody from the news media, if you'd like to introduce yourself and let us know what organization you're from, because I don't know the news media here yet. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you. The agenda is a little bit different than normal, and we've kind of arranged it so we think it's a little bit more friendly. And also, when we visit the schools, like we do, our first business meeting is at a different location. The principal of that building is going to be able, or is going to come up and give a report. So we've asked, we've moved the agenda so they're at the top of the meeting. This way we have a full audience so they can also hear, because I think it's pretty important. Later on, after he's done and we have questions, we'll move into public participation. If you want to speak, you'll need to fill out a card on the back. That I think that's an air purifier back there. There's a card that you need to fill out and drop it in the basket. You'll get, when it's public petition time, you'll get 2 minutes to speak. And then the folks that are online that want to speak, they will come towards the end of public participation. Did I cover everything? Okay. So first of all, the directors would like to thank Fremont and their staff for hosting us tonight. We had a great tour. The gym is amazing through the remodel. My favorite part, of course, is the wood shop. It's very cool. But anyway, thank you to the Fremont staff for having us and to the district staff for getting us set up for tonight. It takes a lot of work. So at this time, I'd like to ask Principal Benita if he would come up and tell us all the good things about your school.
Welcome everybody to Fremont. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Welcome to Fremont. I'm Ben Binti and we met, I'm the principal here at Fremont. This is my 9th year. Thank you for coming on campus with us and doing the tour. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time this evening just talking about our goals for this year at Fremont, where our journey has been in terms of just working together collectively. I want to first start with just our vision for student learning and experience. It was up there, but it's not now. But thank you, Michelle. The way that this was created last year, it was really important for us to have our staff as a department think about what is that ideal state for students' experience in school. And so we asked questions about what makes kids happy or proud, and what would you like to see in your classroom in that ideal state. And each department created that vision of student learning experience that they thought would create that environment for kids. And so we have 7 departments here at Fremont from the 42-ish staff members. and each department created their own vision. And then from that, we used our department head, which is one of our instructional leadership group, to create a vision for student learning experience for all of Fremont, and that's what's up there. And for those who are in the audience and can't see it, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. So Fremont will build positive relationships in a safe, respectful, enjoyable, and inclusive environment where students' diversity and life experience are explored and celebrated. Students will engage, collaborate, think critically, and make connections as they develop real-world knowledge. By taking ownership of their learning, students will be empowered to take risks, persevere, and build their social, emotional, and academic skills as lifelong learners. And we utilize that statement regardless of what we're doing at Fremont. That's something that's important to us if we're talking about classroom instruction, when building lessons, when we're at professional development, whatever we're doing as a group and as a community needs to be tied to that vision. Otherwise, we're wasting our time. And so that's really have been our North Star, and that's where our ideal state is when it comes to serving our students and serving our communities. So the next slide just shows the numbers for Fremont. There is a total of 85 staff members that support kids every single day. There are 2 administrators, a couple of counselors. You'll see that there's 42 classroom teachers, and all of the family here at Fremont has a main purpose of ensuring that all students are growing, and we really focus on the whole child. On the right-hand side, you'll see our Smarter Balance data from last year. And you'll see both language arts, mathematics, and science, and how it compares to our state. And that's a focus for us this year. We're really making sure that we're getting back to thinking about how can we impact students academically, coming off the heels of a worldwide pandemic, and when we spent a lot of time really thinking about social emotional care for kiddos, that was a necessity. That was something we had to do. And we're really honing in now, really focusing back on those academics and ensuring that all students are growing as students as well. I want to talk a little bit about just our shared leadership. It's really important for me as a building leader to ensure that the capacity within our building that all adults have a opportunity to be leaders. And so we have developed different groups, and each one of those groups have unique responsibilities, especially around the instructional role. So in all 4 of those, whether you're talking about my administrative team, which is composed of myself, my assistant principal, dean of students, and my 2 counselors, or if we're talking about our instructional coaching team, which adds an instructional coach person to the administrative team. We also have department heads. Like I said, we have 7 departments at Fremont. Each one of those staff members have instructional leadership responsibilities, and so does our grade level leaders. And our job as an instructional coaching team and as administrative team is to support those teachers who are also supporting their colleagues. And so that shared leadership is really important to me and important to us. And we have created systems where we are providing professional growth in all of these areas, which we know will then lead to positive student outcomes. As far as professional development goes, we have worked really hard the last several years building a professional development model that is differentiated. So as most of you guys probably know, we have 1 hour early release every single Wednesday. And it took a while, and it was a really challenging, it was challenging to be able to provide meaningful professional development for all of our staff. Our certified staff, our classroom teachers, we had a system in place, and we have a system in place, but it was really hard to provide adequate professional development for our instructional assistants or our office staff or our school counselors. And we have created systems at Fremont that differentiates that professional development. And so we have professional development that's done as a whole staff. When we talk about classified and certified, we also have all certified will be a group where we provide professional development. Then we also have professional development that's focused by the department. So each content area has professional development that's part of those Wednesdays. We provide professional development to our instructional assistants. And then the last couple of years, we've had intentionally worked with the department heads as instructional leaders and provide professional development for them as well. And that really has helped them continue that through line of what the school focus is and how it's connected to their individual departments. And then we noticed that with our year 1 and year 2 teachers, there's so much information coming to them and that sometimes it becomes overwhelming. And so we've also created systems where they get some additional support to help them kind of just like reteach some of the things that we're talking about as a whole staff or as what they might see in a department, because sometimes so much information is coming to them, it gets lost, and just trying to help support that, or as well as new to Fremont teachers, just to help understand the systems that we've created. Another really important part at Fremont, and it helps us with not only identifying areas of where we could grow professionally, but it also helps with accountability is our learning walks. So we have groups and we go into classrooms and we do some observations, some data snaps, and that helps us just see how what we're providing as far as professional development goes in any of those differentiated models that we're talking about, how that's impacting student learning. And so if you can go to the next slide, Michelle, and that's directly connected to our strategic plan. And I have appreciated the visionary leadership at central office and how that has really helped us identify those areas that we want to focus on. And what I also really appreciate is our instructional framework, that instructional framework that came when Jared Gordon became a superintendent. That, in my opinion, was a game changer. It provided a common language for all teachers when it came to promising practices in the classroom. We've had different professional development opportunities for different groups, but we've never had a framework that allowed access for all teachers to really dig in and think about what are those instructional moves and ways for us to serve kids academically. And that framework was a significant game changer for us and has really helped drive what professional development looks like at Fremont. And of course, our CASTLE framework is also a very important piece, recognizing that we are serving the whole child, that social emotional care and that self-regulation is really important as well. Go ahead, next slide. And so as far as district focus goes, you saw the strategic plan, and from that strategic plan, our central office and building level administrators created an integrated guidance outcome document. And from that document, there were 3 focus areas: graduation, social emotional learning, literacy and numeracy, and then also a district focus is around that 5D plus rubric for teacher evaluation. Those are going to be some big focuses for this year, and it's part of our professional development. And from that, last year we just finished up really digging into that instructional framework. And part of that process was having a district team come into Fremont, do some classroom observations, and then provide us some feedback on areas that they see as strengths and also areas in which they see as potential areas of improvement. And a couple of feedback was given to us through that process was around critical thinking and around student engagement. They saw a lot of really great things, and the areas that they thought that we would most benefit from were those 2 areas. And we also asked our own staff and did a survey with our own staff around the areas that they see as our next areas of improvement, and they saw the same things. And so this year, our 2 main focus areas is around thinking about instructional moves that promote and increase critical thinking and student ownership. And so I provided a document for you guys on what the 3 priorities are for Fremont this year. The way this document is created is the strategic plan is part of this document, and then you will also see our vision for student and learning experience embedded in this document. And the three major goals that we have is around for our social emotional is decreasing the number of discipline issues that we have here at Fremont that remove students from the classroom by at least 20%. And so we keep track of all of our behavior data, and we are thinking about ways of changing our system and structure that help support kids and keep them in the classrooms a little bit longer. And you'll see some specific action steps that are connected to that. So our first priority is around behavior. Our second priority is around that critical thinking and student engagement. So we're challenging our staff that each time they sit down and think about what their lesson's going to be for the next day, that they're intentionally thinking about instructional moves, tasks, strategies that promote critical thinking and student ownership. And we have some very specific action items that we think will help with that. And then our last priority is around increasing literacy and numeracy and wanting to improve our academic performance through the SBAC score for both math and language arts by at least 7%. And again, some action steps on how that's going to happen. At this time, I'll take any questions, but I appreciate your guys' time. And again, thank you for all that you guys do for our schools and our community.
This is time for directors to have questions, comments.
May I ask how long you've been principal?
Yeah, this is my 9th year here at Fremont. Prior to Fremont, I was an assistant principal at the high school for 5 years, and then a math teacher there for 5 years. So I've been in this community for almost 20 years.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Once again, we really thank you, Ben, for hosting us tonight.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, this part was not as exciting for
I
me,
know.
but hanging out with you guys and going around Fremont was great. I appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah,
I would invite any of you guys to come hang out with me, go into classrooms whenever you want.
Yeah.
Love to do it.
okay, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna have public participation, but it's a couple things I have to read. The Board of Directors offers the public an opportunity to address the board. And that's what we're going to do. Each person's going to have 2 minutes. I know it doesn't seem like very long, but it does. And we set aside 20 minutes of our meeting for public participation in person or online. The only thing we ask is that it is public participation. The board is just here to listen. The board isn't going to answer questions. If there's a question that has to be answered, we will get that answer to you timely, but it won't be tonight. And this is your time to speak. And we just ask that you be responsible, respectful, and you need to be careful about naming employees' names or children's names when you come up to speak. So Janet, are we ready? Okay, you have it, Michelle? And Michelle is the moderator.
Perfect. If there is anyone online that would like to participate, please make sure your first and last name are displayed and use the raise your hand feature. Okay, we will start with our comment cards. You're here, Miss Megan Driver. I'll start the timer, and when the timer goes off, please wrap up your comments. Okay.
Hi. My name is Megan Driver. I'm proud to be starting my 8th year as a public educator, and my 6th year with this district that I come from. The same district that shaped my own youth 30 years ago. I was a youth response, Joseph Link pioneer, and a graduate from Roseburg High School. I'm a child development specialist, and it is truly one of my greatest joys in life to provide our students with a social emotional education that fosters a sense of community, safety, and connection. Kind of my jam, and I'd wager to say that I'm pretty dang on hand. I take pride in the work I do for our district. On Monday of this week, I was called to respond to a situation in the turnaround program, our district's elementary special education behavior program that's housed on our campus. Over the course of the next 30 minutes, in an attempt to keep other students, staff, and myself safe, I was assaulted by a 5th grader in the program and wound up in the emergency room for 4 hours that afternoon and into the evening. I spent another 5 hours in the emergency room again last night due to an undiagnosed concussion, my pupils dilated to different sizes, blurred vision, a headache, and pressure behind my thigh. I do not use the word assault lightly or with any attempt at hyperbole. I'm thoroughly trained with years of experience in crisis prevention intervention. Our skills trainer and I are easily I made the decision to physically intervene only when this student grabbed a large paper cutter with a clear intent of harming me. Our skills trainer, Bria Lawler, came to my assistance with perfect timing, just as he had slipped out of my one-person restraint and had a heavy metal stool held up over his head again with clear intent to cause harm. Even so, I was bitten 5 times from my shoulder, upper arm, forearm, hand, and fingers. I was spit on repeatedly, being hit directly in the eye once, causing blurred vision and continued discharge for hours as I was cracked out. My hair was pulled by the handful. I was punched in the face, punched all over my torso, my arms, and my legs, and my entire lower body were kicked repeatedly. I was scratched all over, pinched, body slammed into a wall, and headbutted multiple times and threatened hardly. Immediately, I left the bruises popping up all over my body, my arm bleeding, visible bruises all over my arms, and the left side of my face red from being punched and having torn body of bruises in my eye and shaking. I really like, especially about my prison commenting, don't time to mention it. Thank you. I'm so grateful for the other 3 staff members that rushed into this meeting, and they're the only reason I wasn't left more seriously injured. As traumatizing as it was, the personal impacts of this event are really what left me feeling the most helpless and angry. I'm a single mother. My own 10-year-old daughter was unexpectedly picked up by her aunt after walking home from school. I told her from the ER that I was going to be really late at work that day, and she knew something was off because I never changed plans last minute without a reason. She was teary-eyed with fear when she came back to find my body marked with injuries, knowing that I was in the emergency room. I am her safe. I am the she. She's never considered an elementary school to be a place that would send me to the hospital. Personally, I also missed 2 dance classes that I paid for and enjoyed quite a bit, and are my own self-care. And I made the decision to hide today's events from my parents, who were spending their 52nd anniversary in Portugal that day. Unfortunately, the news found them via Facebook the following morning. They're joining us here right now. Every job carries inherent risk. We as adults get to measure that risk and decide if it's something we're willing to take. I was intentional in deciding that an occupation as a police officer, firefighter, a logger, steelworker, a miner, were not for me. The inherent risk I was willing to assume were threats that come from outside our safe fence barrier. Sadly, primarily school shootings. It never crossed my mind that the biggest threat to our safety could come from within those fences. And finally, as upsetting as all this was, I am so incredibly grateful that it was I who got hurt and not one of our beloved students. Students need to happen even better than this. Students and teachers, safety is a right. The district is responsible for workplace safety and security for all teachers and staff during school hours. I'm extremely concerned not only about the students in the program, but also the level of exposure to the rest of our school campus and students that they are receiving to violent, graphic, and inappropriate behavior. Thank you for your time, and we'll say thank you to my Fullerton family who came here to support me.
I gotta get used to this. We'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll start our business meeting when we come back. Okay? Okay, we're gonna resume, and the next thing up is communications review of the agenda.
Thank you, Chair Cotton. Appreciate that. Good evening, board. In terms of communication, and review of the agenda, I have just two items for you tonight. First one on the agenda, the previous item number one, the bid on the vestibule, that will come to the board. We took that off the agenda tonight. That'll come to the board in a future meeting. We are requesting some additional information from the bidder per the bid documents. And I also want to remind the board, October 26th is the OSBA Roadshow. When we get more information on its location, which is undetermined at this point, we will pass that on to the board and would encourage the board to attend that statewide opportunity. Thank you.
Now at the consent agenda, we'll need a motion and a second and discussion if there is any.
We approve the consent agenda as proposed.
Okay, second,
Second the motion.
okay, discussion. Any discussion? Nope, okay, I'll call for the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. Let's move into action items, and the first one is approval of the 2023-2024 plan, and is Chelsea gonna lead this?
Yeah.
But before she does that, today is her birthday, and happy birthday, Chelsea.
Yes, Chelsea on your birthday.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me up here. So on page 21 of your packet, you have, go ahead. Yeah, it's on. Scoot it up. I have to. Okay, on page 21 of your packet, you have some examples of some poster designs I put together and some ideas on how to share our strategic plan throughout our schools and our community so that everyone understands our goals. And some of the ideas that I put together include basically these posters that I thought we could distribute throughout our schools so that everyone, parents can see them coming in, staff can see them, students can see them. I also thought these might work on your school board bulletin in the boardroom. We've been regularly communicating about the strategic plan to our staff and community through our newsletters. So that's another way I've added those in there. And basically just general messaging, mentioning it as part of our goals. I've been regularly, we've been regularly including updates in your board bulletin about the strategic plan and each element and how we're moving that work forward. And also I plan on working on articles and submitting them to local media, using them on our websites and in our newsletters that further discuss our strategic plan and how we're implementing it. So if you guys have any questions?
So this is an action item.
Mhm.
So let's have a motion and second, and then we can ask questions.
Mhm.
So it'd be motion to approve Chelsea's graphic design models.
Yep,
Okay.
that works.
That's the motion.
Okay, we have a second.
Second motion.
Okay, we have a second. Discussion.
Thank you, Chelsea, for preparing this. I had the opportunity this week to actually use the middle suggestion and to speak to a group of citizens here in the community. And I just was very proud to present this. I did like the simplicity of it, with the children being, you know, a huge focus. So I think that the comments that I got as I explained a little bit of it, I didn't go into great detail, but it was very well received. And I think the more we can get this out to people, they know that we're serious about what we're endeavoring to do. And our focus is always on on getting the best outcomes for our kids. So I appreciate your work on this.
Thank you for the feedback.
Any further discussion?
I like how there's variations that just kind of highlight, the different aspects of it. We've got the middle one, which is basically the whole strategic plan in its fullness, but then also how the other two highlight that. Did you have a question, Steve?
So on the distribution of this, at this point in time, is it non-physical distribution or is it like, what does that look like?
I envision printing up posters to distribute throughout our schools and have them hanging in lobbies and in our secure vestibules.
In the
Easy
motion,
access,
oh, I'm sorry.
just easy places for folks to see.
And then the other question would be, the motion is all three?
Yeah, they kind of complement one
Yeah,
another or
for sure.
can go separately, so.
Okay, thanks.
Will there be large posters made of this? So there would be.
Yeah.
Not just.
Bigger
not just paper.
versions, yeah.
Good.
So this summer, we've met so much, but this is one of the, when we were kind of brainstorming, was that we wanted this plan to be out, not put on a shelf. But when people walked into the building, there was something that just stood out and that they would take the time to read it. And this is why we have Chelsea on staff. And we're really fortunate to have her. And so if there's no further discussion, I'm going to call for the vote. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. So Assistant Superintendent Nee, you're up next. And it's just a report.
Yes,
correct? Okay.
just a report. Thank you. ORS 327.016 directs the Oregon Department of Education to prepare an annual report of English learners program funding and student outcomes for the state of Oregon. We as a district are required to share this plan with you, this report with you on a yearly basis. So this report covers the 21-22 school year regarding English learners in the state of Oregon. A few key pieces of this, these are English learners that are learning English and they are in an ELD, an English language development program. And there's nearly 100,000 students in Oregon now that are current or former English language learners. So English is not their first language. A couple of other key points in the report, English learners are overrepresented in special education and underrepresented in our talented and gifted programs, as well as younger English learners. So if they come to us earlier, they are more likely to be on track for English language proficiency than older students that come into our schools. I did want to share with you some information about Roseburg's English learners. For starters, I listed up here the languages that are spoken in our district, and these are our active ELL students. So these are students that are actively in the program. We have 53 active English learner students. When I say active, that means they receive daily English language instruction from our English language development teachers. We have 3 teachers in our district, 2 elementary and 1 high school, who provide that instruction daily to our students. We have 38 elementary students and 15 secondary students that are active EL students. But we also have 114, so a total of 167 students are English learners. 114 of them have exited and are being monitored. So that means that they have reached the English language proficiency to be exited from those ELD lessons. But they still receive some supports and we do monitor their progress moving forward. And you can see that if the primary language is Spanish, but we do have a variety of other languages. And of all of our ELL students, so the 167, there's actually 20 different languages. The languages listed are for our active students. Any questions? Thank you.
Um, we're gonna move to Cheryl. She's gonna give us a report, an update on operations.
Thank you. At your places, there are a little packet like this and some slides just telling you about some of the different departments within finance and operations. And as I looked at the slide just now, I noticed I need to give a verbal shout out to nutrition services because that's one of the operations departments and I didn't put a slide. I hope Kyle's left the room, but so hopefully at a later date at a future meeting, I can update you on child nutrition. First of all, the first slide we have is finance by the numbers. We have 6 FTE staff in the business office, including myself. We have a manager, payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, accounting assistant, and an administrative assistant. Our 22-23 spending spent almost $60 million in salary and benefits for staff. Close to 13 million in contracted services, including substitutes, Sodexo, student transportation, which is for student, utilities, repairs, and maintenance not done by the district staff. We spent $6 million in capital outlay, including equipment purchases over $5,000 and major maintenance projects. That would include some of our seismic work that we've done. And the last category is liability insurance. And you can see we spent about $471,000 there. Our accounts payable person printed 1,624 checks and did 1,500 direct deposits to pay our vendors. And our payroll person printed 746 checks and made 9,700 direct deposits, paying our almost 800 employees. Our next one is our facilities update. The maintenance department has 16 FTE staffing, including the manager, office manager. We have 2 electricians, 1 plumber, 2 groundskeepers, a mechanic, a painter, and 7 maintenance staff specializing in roofing, locks, windows, concrete. And of course, I had to include cubbies and coat hooks because those always seem to be on the must-have list. Our properties include 105 acres of bare land, 202 acres of school property, 847,000 school building square feet, about 4 to 5 acres of rental properties, including 18 rental units. We have to maintain those. And we also maintain a fleet of 40 vehicles. They fulfilled 5,037 work orders in 22-23. Those are just the things that come in. Schools have something that breaks. They have something that they like done, like a cubby or a coat hook, and they put in a work order for that. Just as an honorable mention, they also do incidental repairs that are done while at a school. They also cover custodial absences when we can't get a substitute custodian. They help set up and take down for events. They help warehouse make deliveries for or removal of surplus, and they assist with emergency situations. Move to our purchasing department. They have a manager, a half-time manager, support staff, and 1.6 warehouse and delivery staff. 470 requisitions pulled since July. These numbers are for the current year. 121 sales were made to outside districts and schools at a markup. It helps us to cover our internal administrative cost. It helps the school districts because we've competitively bid those products, so they don't have to. That relieves them of their public responsibility for bidding. And then they also enjoy our bulk discount. This year, there's well over 156,000 items, and compare that to all of last year at 236,000 items, and we're well on our way to a purchasing warehouse record-breaking year. So breaking it down, so far we've distributed nearly 7 million sheets of copy paper, 54,000 Ticonderoga pencils, 3,100 boxes of Kleenex, and more than 2,700 boxes of 24 count Crayola crayons. Just kind of gives you an idea. We buy them, ship them around the district. And our last slide for tonight is student transportation. We do contract out with for our student transportation, but we do have some district staff that provide the liaison services. That would be the other half of our purchasing manager and about a half an FTE of support staff. During 22-23 school year, our bus drivers drove over 1 million miles from home to school, school to home, 25,000 annual miles for academic field trips, 55,000 non-academic trip miles, for a total of 1 million total annual mileage in all those forms of transportation. Who'd have thought they drove over 1 million miles a year? This year, we have 14 special ed routes, 2 van routes, 41 routes on the large buses, 57 total routes every day. They're currently transporting about 2,400 students, and that'll grow closer to 3,000 as the cooler weather sets in and kids seem to take the bus more, or they join like the Boys and Girls Club because they can't play outside after school. So that's just a brief snapshot of the finance and operations departments.
So Cheryl, just a reminder, on the 27th, which will be it'll be a work session at the district office. We're gonna continue with the manual that the district office put together for when we had our work session for new board members, and actually it helps all of us. She's going to lead the section on finances and where the money comes from. And when she's talking about this is what she's talking about. So just kind of a primer, right? You got it ready to go? Nope. Okay, 2 weeks. That's on the 27th. Yeah, 2 weeks from today. Okay, Director Shercliffe, you're up.
A report from the AMP committee. We met last week and we discussed one singular topic. We needed to replace an HR specialist that was leaving the district. And in that discussion, we kicked around the possibility of possibly adding 2 people to this position or creating another position. And that's, this is all, of course, Superintendent Corden's decision, but he came to us and asked, and we had some dialogue back and forth about the pros and cons and what could happen. And as of this time, we've hired 1 to replace the outgoing one, and that's where we're at.
Very much. Superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Chair Cotton. Nope, that's the wrong button. Here we go. All right, I have a short report for you tonight. This is actually the first meeting we've had since we've had our kids back. And so I would just want to start by saying thank you to our staff and thank you to our families who trust us with their kiddos. We have amazing people that work for us. We have an incredible group of professional educators that we have the opportunity to work with. And we have amazing kids. And I really would be remiss really at every meeting if I didn't talk about the fact that we have great people in this organization. That's what makes this organization a great place to be. I had a chance to get out to all of our schools at one point, at least at one point this year. And it's just, even though we had a bit of a challenging start on a Monday with the fires and we had smoke in the classrooms and we were coming up with the plans of what to do, I just am thankful for the professionals we have that work here that just brought a sense of calm to the situation. That we've got this. Conditions weren't ideal. They're not always ideal when you're in a hot classroom. It's not always ideal when you're choking on smoke in your classroom, and our AQI was pushing about 500 that day. But wanted to start by saying thank you to the staff who are doing a great job with their kids, who do a great job with their kids every day, and appreciate them. I also want to just take a few minutes and just thank our board. Schools are complex places. They've become a place of increasing importance in communities. Schools also are tasked with lots of things to do from not just the state of Oregon, but it seems like society in general. There's a lot of expectations on schools around everything from the mental health of children in the community to making sure we have the next generation of workforce. And oftentimes it's not all just about academics. And I think things have shifted in the last several years about, the expectations. I really think of all the institutions that exist, particularly government institutions. Schools are in that spot of needing to carry the weight of many failed initiatives, quite frankly. And I want to thank not just our staff, but our board, who has really been focused. You have been focused on making sure that we stay the course on the things that are most important, around making sure the care and the support for kids is there, that instruction is there for students, and we think about graduation with a plan. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank you for your work around securing our schools today and this afternoon as we visited this school. Hopefully you're seeing some of those investments. We need to continue expanding those. I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. And so thank you for continuing to find opportunities as well for students to have better opportunities throughout our schools. I want to take a minute and just talk a little bit about I appreciate the work, Chelsea, you've done on that, the strat plan tonight, but to tell the board a little bit about some of the things that have been happening over the past many weeks in terms of how to operationalize this. So sometimes it's, I think at one point, Dr. Pepper with their 23 flavors were asked, like, where's that vault? Like, where do you put the combination 23 flavors, right? Someone once said, I think they worked for Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper at the time, and they said, it's in your company handbook because that's the most secure place. No one's ever going to really look there, right? And so I think the idea is, how do we move this idea, this sheet of paper, this 8.5 by 11, it's not going to have some additional colors on it. How do we make this actually move in a way that that's understood by the community, understood by our staff and embraced by the staff. And I want to let you know about a couple of things that have been happening there. Our principals have done a great job prioritizing this work, the work of the board, to make sure that we have a focus on these areas. We've been working intently with our leadership team to make sure every department in every school building is going to make this a priority and talk about how we can improve this. There's this idea, this thought, it's really more of a maxim out there around collective efficacy. You'll hear this a lot, particularly in education settings. The belief that together we can do things better. And I appreciate this strat plan, the board's focus on this, that really helps us accelerate and magnify these efforts as we have all these things happen together, put them together. And it also keeps us accountable for the things we say we're going to do that will have effective operations, that will make sure we're investing in appropriate and timely instruction. We make sure that we have safe and inclusive environments. We can make sure our focus on leadership development's there. And so I appreciate that. I did want to talk just for a minute tonight about really a truism, and that is that that safety matters. And the reality is that there's an inextricable link between feeling safe and being successful, and being successful in the classroom. And so I want to talk just for a minute about some of the investments that we've made there. And there's certainly work we need to continue to do here. But in Harvard Business Journal, they've had several articles over the last year about psychological safety. If you look at Fortune 50 companies, the number one connective tissue between all those companies, even though they do very different things. Some are NGOs, some are for profit. You see a variety of different verticals in there, from tech to finance to investing. The number one connective tissue with all high quality Fortune 50 companies is psychological safety. Meaning this, if you feel safe enough to say, hey, this isn't working, or safe enough to say, what if we took a risk on this? And so safety, we know, matters in terms of how we organize an organization. What we also know is that when kids feel safe, their ability to learn increases dramatically. And for those of us who can remember attending school, for those of us who work in schools, we really see this every day. The fact of having a building where you can walk into a classroom or a school building and feel safe matters for student success. Those two things are, again, inextricably linked. You can't really have a school building or a classroom in which people aren't safe and expect kids to have the kind of success that this board and myself as a superintendent expect to have happen. So I want to talk about a couple of things that we're on the right track on. that are worth mentioning tonight. We welcomed Douglas County Sheriff's Officer Deputy Mo into our organization this month. There's a picture of Deputy Mo in the Gaga pit. Deputy Mo's been a really great asset for us. He's been great, not just to sit on Carnes Road and ticket speeders, not just to help people that shouldn't be close to a building find another place to loiter, but also to be an example of how law enforcement is there to both serve and protect our students. We do expect a second deputy to join our organization, hopefully by the end of this month. And we're hopeful that we'll see our SRO from Roseburg PD back to us in January. I did want you to know that in the meantime, our safety coordinator, Ed Villarreal, Ed has been at the high school full-time, and Ed will be at a full-time presence at the high school until we can get a full-time SRO there. I do have a couple of quotes about Deputy Mo here for you tonight, and you can take a look at those. But essentially, the kids and the staff members and the parents have been excited to see additional safety investments in our schools, and I appreciate that and attest to the fact that that will help students be more successful. Thank you.
Very much. Okay, this is a time for individual directors' reports. So, Mr. Leone, have a good trip. Leaving tomorrow for Italy. That sounds like fun. Reverend Howard?
I have nothing to share tonight that will benefit the students.
Andrew?
I don't have anything tonight either.
Well, I always have something to say. No, I really enjoyed the tour. Thank you so very much. I mean, last time I was here, it was junior high school, but to see how the school has grown and to hear the vision and it was very good. Thank you.
I have nothing to add.
I too wanted to thank you very much for showing us Fremont, and we could pick up more of your heart for the students and what you're doing here. I especially liked your mission statement that you printed out, and you know, there's a Bible verse that says, "Without a vision, people perish." And you know, you've painted the vision here for your staff at Fremont very well, and I just can foresee good things based on your having invested like this. So I appreciate that, and however we can support that, we want to. Thank you.
I too enjoyed the tour. As I said, I was very impressed by the numbers in the music and the band. And I think we're seeing that probably in both middle schools. And I know the high schools going well. And I'm really thankful that we have music in our elementary schools. I think it's really important. Principal at the high school probably doesn't know this, but I spent a few hours on his campus on Thursday of last week with the organization that I volunteer with, Young Life. I was telling Jared, it was so quiet. Even at lunch, the kids were so respectful. I thought, what's going on? I didn't know if you got the big whip out or what during the day, but they were so respectful. And I really appreciated that. And you should be very proud of that. So, okay, our next meeting will be in 2 weeks. There'll be a work session. Cheryl will be ready to go. I hope and pray that you all have a wonderful 2 weeks, and we'll see you on the 27th. Meeting is adjourned.